Welcome everybody to 100 days of Minecraft hardcore in a straight line. Yeah, no, I'm being serious. Yes, one straight line. No matter how far I go, no matter how deep or high I go, I'm confined to one straight line in Minecraft. There's nowhere else I can go. And if you see me randomly glitching out, that's because it's teleporting me back to the line because I literally can't leave this one line. This also does mean that when I go into the Nether and I go into the end, I will also continue to only run in one straight line. This is by far one of the most challenging 100 days I have ever done, period. I've done some pretty difficult ones. And yes, this video is inspired by Wadsy's straight line video, and if you haven't seen his, you should definitely check it out. But we're gonna see if we got what it takes to survive 100 days in a straight line, or even if it's possible to beat Minecraft in a straight line. Some things I want to do: attempt to beat the dragon, if that's possible, get a full set of diamond gear, and build a house. However that's gonna go, I'm not sure. Either way, if you guys do go on to enjoy the video, make sure you guys like and subscribe, join the PaulGG army, and let's get into 100 days. Day one. Since I'm confined to just a straight line, literally living life is, it's honestly going to be difficult. But luckily, when breaking things outside my line, I can still be able to place blocks, and then I'll be able to push all the items over to me. So after struggling to get a tiny bit of wood, I had the realization that getting food is going to be even harder. Either way, I made my way over to a forest where I was able to finally get enough wood so I could be able to make a few tools, which was perfect timing because a sheep decided to step on my land. So now I also got some more food. After that, I found a stony beach where I'm going to be able to get a ton of gravel to be able to use as trash blocks, to be able to scoop all the items outside of my line closer to me. Then it was time to upgrade the tools. Honestly, this straight line thing isn't so bad after all. No, I'm just kidding. It turned nighttime and it was a real struggle. I was getting mauled by zombies, and honestly, it just hurts my brain trying to fight things where I'm confined to a line and then they push me and then I can't get out of it. So instead of struggling outside, I decided to just dig a hole and live in it for the night. Day two, we're back on the adventure. I decided to head back towards spawn and go in the opposite direction of this Terraria world, since I don't feel like swimming across the ocean right now. And after continuing the journey, chopping down everything in my path, I finally found a village. Now to find out whether it's within my path or not is, I mean, that's a whole nother story, which turns out we have exactly one house that's available to us, which after walking up to it, it turns out there's a kid bouncing on a bed in it too. So now when he grows up, I could actually use him for trading. So I trapped him in his house. I mean, is it really kidnapping if they never left their house? Either way, it feels good to know that now I got a free roof over my head until I build my own base. And luckily I did have access to a little bit of the village's farms, so I was able to steal some seeds. So on day three, I began shoveling up some dirt so I could be able to set up my own farm right behind my newly acquired house, of course, so that there won't be any sort of confusion with the villagers as to whose farm belongs to who. Afterwards, I realized I accidentally let my kid out into the world, and he's honestly just not ready for the pain and misery the world has to offer. So I kind of just sat around trying to get him back inside the house because I didn't want to miss my chance. But luckily, he can't resist a nice bouncy bed. And on day four, now that we got base camp all set up, it's time to go adventuring. So after saying goodbye to Junior, I crafted up a boat and tried sailing across the small section of ocean. But unfortunately, when boating outside of my line, it teleports me back in the line, and then now boating is pretty much useless. Luckily though, after sinking my ship, I managed to spot another village not too far away, or well, at least it seemed like it wasn't. I forgot I gotta mine in and over mountains because I actually can't just walk straight to anything. But after falling off of a cliff, it turns out I can't get anything out of this village because it's just outside my reach. But what's not outside my reach is this flock of piggies. So now I'm gonna be eating good. Shortly after continuing my adventure, I found this weird looking pig trying to camouflage with a bunch of sheep, probably because it noticed that I was making bacon earlier. Then after making it through a forest, I came across some more water, which I'm definitely not interested in swimming again, so it's time to head home. Days 5 through 10, it's time to go mining. I crafted up some fresh tools and began digging down. My goals for this trip is to pretty much just get enough iron so I can be able to make a full suit of armor, which luckily on the way down, I already found some iron pretty quick. The crazy part is that shortly after that, I also hit some diamonds. I didn't know mining at Y level 11 was even still viable in 1.18, but hey, I'll take diamonds, that's for sure. I quickly smelted down some iron so I could be able to make a pickaxe, and I scooped up 4 diamonds. And after mindlessly beating my head against some deep slate for a little bit, I managed to finally hit a cave. Caves are both good and bad because, well, I can be able to walk around and have room to not have to mine, and I can be able to see some resources around me. But the bad part is, well, I can see some resources around me. But I managed to find some deep slate coal, which is perfect because I started cooking up some food. I'm realizing I'm actually running a little bit low below. But while cooking it up in the kitchen, I started hearing a bunch of spiders above me. So I climbed up and it turned out that there was a spider spawner. Now I'll be honest, the last thing I was expecting in this world was to be able to actually have something to farm XP. But this thing is gonna be clutch later when I'm gonna be doing enchants. So after smacking the spider spawner for a little bit and getting some levels, it was time to continue spelunking. I managed to get a little bit more iron, some gold, and even some lapis. Then I came across a lava cave, which I realized now I'm definitely gonna be needing a whole lot of obsidian. So I smelted down some iron for a bucket and luckily found some water in a cave nearby. But while towering up to get the water, I actually noticed more diamonds. That's right, baby. Somehow I'm actually getting diamonds, which is blowing my mind. These ones are a little bit further out of my reach, but I still managed to scoop them up by placing blocks. After making my way back to the lava cave, I mined up some obsidian so I could be able to have plenty for a portal and an enchantment table, and then it was time to head home. Now it's time to smelt down all the materials we gathered while mining. Also, it looks like Junior finally grew up. Now he's senior, which also means that we're going to need a whole lot more room in this house. So I did a little bit of remodeling while waiting for everything to smelt down, just to give us some more space and to make sure that Junior will never really be able to leave, I'll be honest. He's too important to me. Then I finally crafted up some iron armor and some tools. And then I closed out the day by farming up some food because I was getting pretty hungry, I'm not gonna lie. Day 12, on my way out of town, I actually noticed a farmer working on his crops nearby. And this farm is actually on the other side of town, my side to be specific, which means he actually has to cross my line to be able to get all the way over there. But then I also noticed that an iron golem was stepping into my line, and I mean, you know how it goes when you step on my line, you know what I'm saying? You get the clapping. Afterwards, I pretty much just wasted the rest of the day trying to steal seeds from the villagers because, well, I wanted to expand my farm, and my farm's more important. Days 13 to 17, on my way back over to the spawn area to go hunt for some food, I was able to actually reach the farmer, and he actually sells 6 bread for 1 emerald, which luckily I had exactly 1 emerald. So I was able to grab up some bread for the road. Now I thought I was going on a quick little journey over to the spawn just to be able to get some food, but it kind of just turned out to a crazy long adventure. I didn't want to pick my lands dry of all the animals I currently have, so I figured I'd finally swim across this ocean to go find new untouched lands. Along the way, I passed many things like ocean monuments and shipwrecks, but nothing that was within my reach. It was depressing. The ocean was just honestly unforgiving. There was barely any dolphins to help me out, but when there was one, it finally led me straight to land. But just before hitting the new lands, I actually found a shipwreck that was within reach. I was able to break down the walls, but unfortunately the chest was literally just 1 block away, just 1 block too far. Couldn't open it. So depressing. But that's fine because the new lands was rich with food. I was able to collect up plenty of sheep, chickens, and cows. But I say like cows. Then I finally came across a village, which I wasn't able to reach, and I was only able to look at their food from far away. And to top it all off, it started raining. It was honestly a really depressing day, and it was time to head home. Day 18, we're back at home, and it's time to cook up all that game I was hunting. Afterwards, I made my way down into the mines so I could be able to get tons of cobblestone for building up a house. Still not sure I'm going to do that yet, but I'm determined to build one. After getting stone, I went and chopped down all the trees I could, and I mean, this is definitely going to be a future problem. I need to start planting some more trees soon, or at least make a tree farm. Anyways, on day 19, it was finally time to start building a house. I wanted to build on the flattest area I could find, since verticality is pretty much the only real way I could be able to make a big house. Luckily, I remember over near spawn, it's actually a pretty flat area that also had animals in it, which would be perfect for setting up base camp. So I placed down some furnaces to cook up all my stone and then began construction. I honestly underestimated how hard it was going to be to build on a 2D setup. I also wish I had smelted down everything beforehand because honestly it just takes forever waiting for everything to cook up. But honestly, I think it worked out in the end because I'm vibing a lot with this house. I managed to be able to make 2 floors out of it without running out of materials, so I can be able to still have a bedroom and a storage area. And I'm not gonna have to worry about running over my bed every single time I gotta get from one side of the house to the other. I don't even think I could have built this thing better on a 3D plane, I'll be honest. And on day 24, it's time to move in. Yep, that's kind of it. I regret moving super far away because of this. I had to run all the way back and forth all day long, just moving things. But that's fine because on day 25, I start off by crafting up a fishing rod, so I could try fishing up all the items I mined that's out of reach. Which, good news, it actually works, because I was gonna shovel up a whole lot of dirt, because I'm also gonna need a whole lot of blocks for my next adventure. But after shoveling and fishing up hundreds of blocks, I realized I could also just shear some leaves. But honestly, I don't know how useful leaves are gonna be in the Nether, since they can just catch on fire super easily. Oh yeah, by the way, our next adventure is gonna be in the Nether. So on days 26 to 33, I made my way over to the edge of the land where the ocean was, because honestly, I just don't want to have to run through another portal all the time whenever I want to go forward and back. But after crafting it up, I jumped in. And to no surprise, I was still stuck on the 1 block line. Great. Which means I'm going to have to really gamble for finding a fortress or a bastion. It could take days to find one. I mean, it's not impossible to find them since they do just infinitely spawn the further and further you go into the Nether, but the likelihood of getting one is just, it's low enough to make me want to cry. Regardless though, for days, I mined through walls, collecting gold and quartz, having near-death experiences with lava, but we persevered and it was all worth it because I finally managed to find another fortress that goes over our line. But to my surprise, when I got closer though, there was actually even a blaze spawner on our line. Not just a fortress, but a blaze spawner. This was honestly so freaking insane because it's going to save a ton of time with getting resources. By resources, I mean specifically blaze rod. Like that's like literally the only thing I really need from a fortress. And after spending a lot of time very slowly and very carefully fighting blazes, I got all the blaze rods I'm going to need for finding a stronghold and smelting down some ores later. So it was finally time to head home. Day 34 to 36. I started off by crafting myself up a brand new diamond pickaxe since my current one is pretty much knocking on death's door. Then it was time to begin the horrifying journey of working with villagers. I decided to give Junior a new fletching job so that I could be able to sell him tons of sticks since, well, I mean, trees are the easiest thing that I have access to. But so that I could be able to get tons of emeralds so that I could be able to also trade with the farmer to be able to buy bread. But before I go on my shopping spree, I needed to chop down every single tree that was touching my line so I could be able to have plenty of wood for all the sticks and plenty of saplings to start a new tree farm. And finally on day 37, it was time to convert some of that wood into cold hard emerald and then use those emeralds for some food. The only downside is that the farmer wasn't coming across town anymore for the farm he used to work at. Instead, he's using one I could barely even see. And while standing around wasting my time, I had the realization that the only villagers in this town is the farmer and Junior. So I pretty much just continued to waste the entire day just trying to lure the farm over with a composter or a bed and waving emeralds around. Just nothing would work. He wouldn't take the bait. But then nighttime came around and I found out where he lived. So on day 38, I decided it was time to commit some crime. And so I was going to try to burn down his house. But first I was going to need some arrows, so I went down into the caves and luckily a skeleton greeted me at the entrance. But then after trial and error, I found out the hard way that, well, flaming arrows won't burn down anything. So then I was trying to flint and steel all the grass around the house, but again, it just kind of failed. It looks like this man's house isn't going down anytime soon. So after giving up, I decided to make my way over to the other acacia village that we found a while ago to see if there's any villagers without a job so that when I come over there with a job, they'll come running. Then I'll just scoop them up and kidnap them and take them home. Luckily, there actually was one, but the downside is that it's getting pretty late and so he wanted to run home and sleep. So the next day I decided to prep the small part of the ocean that I'm gonna have to swim through by making a bridge so that the villager could just walk across. I know, how gentlemanlike of me. Then it was finally time to bag him, which he was actually waiting for me at the edge of town anyway, so that worked out perfectly. But then I painfully lured him all the way home with the promise of a new home and a steady job. And finally, after we made it back, all I had to do was get him stuck in the house with Junior so he could never see the light of day again. Then I set up a nice outdoor area where they could just roam around and enjoy life. Wait, but then he could see the light. All right, well, just ignore what I said. He could go outside after he pays me with some bread though. But then I actually just gave him back the bread and then so that I'm investing in the village. Okay, yeah, I'm not making any sense anymore. But on days 43 to 45, I made my way back into town and began remodeling the villager's house. Since I only have access to one house in this entire village, well, the entire village will only have access to this one house then. Well, except for that one farmer. He's just constantly defying all the rules. I hate that guy. He's just gonna get clapped by a zombie one day anyways. I wanted the house to still kind of blend in with the acacia biome, so I used tons of acacia planks, but I mixed it in with a little bit of deep slate brick, and honestly, this turned out to be one of my favorite combos. I never really expected to like acacia like this. But finally, after finishing up with their new house, it was time to give them some more bread and get to that baby making. And on days 46 to 48, while waiting for the villagers to do the deed, I figured I'd do some multitasking by heading down into the caves to get some more resources. Starting with the spider spawner, of course, so that I could be able to craft up some fishing rods so I could be able to fish all the items out of arm's reach. After my spider pit stop, I pretty much just continued mining on the same line as always, but this time in the opposite direction that I went last time, which was definitely worth it because while mining I heard a whole lot of zombies in the wall, and after making a tiny hole in the wall, it actually turned out to be a zombie spawner. So now not only do we got a spider spawner, but we also got a zombie spawner, which this thing is going to be super clutch later when I'm going to be doing doing some stonks. I also decided this thing was definitely worth setting up for an actual farm. Well, to the best of my abilities, of course, I am walking on one straight line. But after setting this thing up, I started chopping away, racking in plenty of rotten flesh. But then it was time to get back to mining because I forgot I was actually here for resources. So then I just got a little bit of iron and diamonds, no big deal. You know how mining is. On day 49, I started off by smelting down all that iron. And while all that iron smelts down, I decided to craft up a diamond axe and a diamond shovel with the diamonds we got also. And then gave some trees some haircuts and, well, I then chopped them all down. Haircuts for no reason, but they were free at least. And on days 50 to 53, it's miserable villager time. I sold tons and tons of sticks to Junior so that I could be able to get more emeralds to then also upgrade a cleric, because clerics at max level actually sell ender pearls, which is definitely going to save my sanity so I don't gotta hunt down a bastion in the nether like we had to do for the fortress, because there's no way I'm getting that lucky twice, I'll tell you that much. But unfortunately, I was going to need a whole lot more rotten flesh to level them up for the first time, which luckily I do have a rotten flesh machine, aka, well, it's a zombie spawner. You guys already know. So I just beat the life out of some lifeless zombies for a little while. Then it was back to trading, which after getting the cleric past the first level, it was honestly cake to get him to start selling me pearls after that. All I needed to do was farm up some more trees so I could be able to have enough wood to be able to make enough money off Junior to then finally buy my pearls. And on days 54 to 55, now it's time I get working on the line a little bit. It's honestly pretty ugly and boring, and I've just been running up and down this thing all the time, and I just hate it. So then I decided to place some leaves on each side of the line all the way to the village from my base, so it'll just be way easier on the eyes and honestly just make the run way more enjoyable. Oh man, I need a G fuel break. I'm getting a little tired. I don't know why those sucking sounds sounded so violent. And on days 56 to 57, it's about time I become a rancher. I've tried my best to honestly avoid having to wrangle up animals, but after building up 2 houses, I'm feeling pretty confident right now. Luckily, a sheep was hanging out a little bit too close to my house, and it caught a whiff of all that succulent wheat I was waving around in the air. So then I trapped him in my house for a little while I built up a new animal pen outside. And after fencing it off, it was time to lure Larry all the way into his new pen. Now the real challenge is going to be getting a second sheep in there. Unfortunately, all the sheep near my house are all way too far away because they watched Larry get kidnapped. Luckily though, I did remember seeing another sheep in the forest nearby, so I managed to go lure his cakes all the way back home. And then I wrangled him in the pen with Larry, so now I'll have an endless supply of wool. And on day 58, I realized I never made a new wheat farm after moving out of the village, so I went across the river to finally set up a new one, since I'm going to be needing a whole lot of wheat for taking care of my sheepers. But after setting it all up and planting all my seeds, that sounds wrong, I realized this is going to take forever to grow up and get the wheat that I need. But to be able to get all that wheat, I figured I might as well just hop in the nether and hopefully find a soul sand valley where I could be able to get some bone blocks and a ton of bone meal. I mean, I got lucky with the fortress, so maybe I'll get lucky and find at least a soul sand valley with some bones in range. So after jumping in the nether, I figured I'd go in the opposite direction that we went from the fortress, and we'll just continue mining forever and ever because this is the nether. The worst part about this entire trip is the fact that after mining through all those walls, I barely even found any sort of quartz or gold or anything. I mean, I did get a little bit of glowstone, but not very much resources other than tons and tons of netherrack. I mined through mountains and mountains of netherrack, bridged over lava fields until finally we came into an opening. And through that opening, I can actually see a soul sand valley really far away, but that means that we're on track to hitting one. But that's when I also had the realization that after punching through the wall, I actually have a bastion literally sitting right next to me. So I figured it was probably worth digging down to see if I'm actually above the bastion or if the bastion's on the other side of me, which it turns out actually I'm literally right above the bastion. That's pretty sick. I mean, the downside is that I can't really get any of the gold out of it other than one block that luckily was on my path, but all the secret gold's hidden away, so I don't really have much use for this thing. So it was back to adventuring all the way over to the soul sand valley, where unfortunately in the first section of it I couldn't get any bones, so that's great. However, not too far away I was able to see another fortress, so I continued bridging my way over there hoping to be able to find some bones and stuff along the way, but you know, it's just not lucky this time. And after digging through the mountain, it turns out I do have access to the fortress just on one little highway, which could be useful because actually withers do spawn on these highways. Other than that, it's literally a useless fortress though. Kind of sucks. I try to widen it as much as possible to help maximize any sort of withers spawning because, well, I mean, withers do drop bones, right? I mean, they are skeletons. But after that, it was back to the journey of getting some real bones, some bone blocks. I continued bridging out, going through the soul sand valley longer and longer until finally, after reaching yet another soul sand valley all the way across the lava lake, I just couldn't get any bone blocks. I had to call it quits and give up on this project. So it was time to head home. Originally, I wanted to be able to grow tons tons and tons of wheat so that I could be able to make a whole lot of emeralds off some villagers. And on days 66 to 73, it's time to begin the very, very long and tedious journey of getting really OP off these villagers. I started off by chopping down all the trees in the tree farm so I could be able to sell tons and tons of sticks over to Junior. I also crafted up a blast furnace and a smithing table so I could be able to give it to some new villagers so I could be able to also buy up diamond armor and diamond tools. I was mostly just prioritizing getting diamond armor though because, well, I mean, that's defense, baby. So after doing a lot of back and forth with Junior and his other fletching friend, and also running back and forth between the tree farm and the villagers, I finally ended up getting enough emeralds to where I could actually start working on my armor remix. And after buying a ridiculous amount of helmets and shields and such off of him, I finally got some diamond legs. Now that was promising. It felt good to finally have some diamond armor. All I had to do was go chop down some more trees at the tree farm, make some more emeralds real quick, and then I could finally buy up the rest of my diamond armor off my armor. Wow, that's a lot of armor. And luckily though, after giving the villagers some more bread, some iron golems actually started spawning to protect the village. Well, you know, I mean, or give me some iron for my pockets because I sold all mine to my armor. And besides, I do gotta wait for some more villager kids to grow up so that they could become some hard workers as well. So I kind of just sat around waiting for a little while, chopping down a bunch of iron golems, getting more and more iron. I wasn't too worried about getting diamond tools yet, more so I was just focused on trying to get tons and tons of arrows and upgrade my bow. Which finally, after my kids grew up, my kids, they weren't my kids, I gave them a fletching job and made it so they sold me some arrows so I could be able to buy a ridiculous amount of arrows for the ender dragon, if I could even fight the dragon, that is. Then I found out that my other fletcher is selling a power 2 bow, which is going to actually be super clutch. And on day 74 to 75 now, I guess it is about time we find out, can we even beat the game and can I fight the dragon? Will this god seed let me? So I crafted up some ender eyes and gave it a toss, and I mean, it's still somewhat on my line, so I'll continue with it. Let's see how this goes. I ran all the way over to the village because, I mean, that was the direction it was pointing, and it continued pointing past that. So then I decided to stop by at the secondary village, and, well, I mean, it actually told me to go back. So that means that there is, in fact, a fortress in between our two villages. One thing that's super deceiving about ender eyes is that they point towards a starter staircase, not the end portal or anything like that. So if it starts going off track, that makes it a little bit more confusing. Luckily, though, I was able to find that YX axis where it's going hard left or hard right off of my line, which means I am above the stronghold. So I began digging down in hopes of being able to find it, which luckily we actually did. Now, obviously, there's not much exploring that I could really do inside this thing other than, you know, kind of digging around and hoping to be able to punch a hole into a wall and then boom, there being more stronghold. I actually start digging up and down. Well, other than the fact that I could also dig down more and then maybe find more, which actually that worked out. But after hitting dead end after dead end after dead end, I decided to try to go down a staircase kind of near actually where I came in at, and boom, it turns out to be the portal. Now, I can't actually believe this. This was mind-blowing to be able to find the portal. I 100% wasn't anticipating to be able to actually beat the game, but knowing that I have a chance, I'd feel like a failure if I didn't. Actually, I would be a failure. Now, I'm not quite ready to jump into that portal yet. I want to make sure that I'm going to be ready for this journey. So after chopping down tons and tons of trees at the tree farm, I went back over to the village where I was able to sell more sticks yet again, because it's just the best trade and only trade I can really do, to get a ton of emeralds so I can be able to buy plenty of arrows for this. I am going to need as much arrows as possible since I can't get off my line. Afterwards, I wanted to also make sure that I have plenty of string for as many fishing rods as possible, since fishing rods are actually really clutch with being able to grab all the items outside of my reach. And after doing a couple other things like crafting up some golden apples and, you know, AFKing for a little too long, well, finally, after all that preparation, we were ready to slay a dragon. So on day 79 to 82, I made my way over to the stronghold, and while mining down, I accidentally broke my diamond pick. Now, just foreshadowing here that I really needed that diamond pick. So I made my way through the stronghold and I jumped into the end portal. And I tested out just to make sure that I am still stuck on this one line. And yet, unfortunately, I am. I'm fighting the dragon on the one line. So I dug my way up just to find out that there's a giant obsidian pillar sitting on my line. Yeah, no, I'm being serious. This was horrible. This was literally a worst case scenario for me. I had to painfully mine up obsidian after obsidian, but I did luckily had the realization after mining the first 2 blocks, I only really need to mine 1 hole. Then I could be able to place down water and I could swim through the hole. Then I'll only have to mine half the blocks that I would to be able to then walk through it. I mean, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me. But finally, after popping my way through to the other side, it was time to slay a dragon. I bowed down all the healers I could, and then I also had the realization that the cage healers are a thing, and I can't really get those. So I did my best to try to slay the dragon without breaking all the end crystals. I mean, I do have a lot of arrows, and as long as the dragon isn't going to be flying around near those end crystals, we should be in the clear. I can out damage these things. I mean, if I had beds, this dragon would be gone in about 2 seconds, even with all the healers, but I don't have beds. But after a little back and forth with the dragon, it just kept flying over near the end crystals, and it was just so painful. I knew at this rate I was going to run out of arrows before I slay the dragon. So I decided to do the bold move. On its next perch, I would tower way up in the sky to be able to try to shoot down through the holes at the top of the cages. And this actually worked. I was able to get the angle on both end crystals and pop them both. And after towering down, then it was just me and the dragon. And finally, on day 82, the dragon was slain. Now, I wish this is where I would have just turned around and head home, but I got a little greedy and I was feeling real good and lucky about all the different structures and stuff that we've already found on this one-line world. So I was hoping that we'd be able to find an end city, but unfortunately, that wasn't the case. I bridged all the way out to the outer ends. It took so freaking long. Once I finally reached the outer ends by bridging, I was greeted by a very short island. I wasn't able to really run around very much. I literally had to start bridging once again right away. But like I said, I wish I would have just turned around after the dragon fight. I continued bridging over void, running over island, bridging over void. The only thing that was really worthwhile that I even found was a return portal. I just continued running in a straight line, hoping of being able to find any sort of end city. But after even nearly 10 days, I couldn't even find a single one running in a straight line. I don't know how people find these things all the time, but I'm so unlucky. So I eventually gave up and started heading home. And I wish I was paying attention because I ran right past the return portal, but instead I was on Twitter, so go follow me on Twitter. And after returning home and the sun rising on day 92, something just didn't feel right. I felt like a failure. I felt miserable. I mean, I feel like I should have, right? I mean, I didn't get the elytra and I just wasted a ton of days, so that's great. I figured I can at least still stick to my other goal of trying to have full diamond everything. So on days 92 to 97, we're back on that villager grind. Since I do already have full diamond armor, all I needed was full diamond tools, so I got to level up a weaponsmith. So I figured I'd start off by chopping down tons and tons of trees so I could be able to have a lot of sticks, so I could obviously sell those to Junior and his friends. And then after getting all those emeralds, I would then start leveling up the weaponsmith by buying tons and tons of axes, and then after that a lot of diamond hoes and various other random things I don't need. Then I would also wait outside just chopping down tons and tons of iron golems that kept spawning, because it was basically a manual iron farm. The iron golems just continued to spawn over and over, trying to protect my villagers, but you know, I'm the only protector here, all right? Quit trying to flex in my zone. Then I took all that iron and then I accidentally sold it to the armorer, and I'm stupid, I know. But I still got some emeralds out of it, so I was still able to obviously upgrade the weaponsmith and still be able to buy some diamond gear. But it turns out that he only sells diamond shovels and diamond pickaxes, but not diamond swords. And since I did already have a diamond axe, now the only thing that I'm missing is a diamond sword. So on days 98 to 99, I figured I'd go down to the mine shaft and start mining away, which after getting down to the bottom, it turns out that I literally missed a diamond while bridging. So I was able to easily get one. So all I needed was one more. But after continuing my tunnel for a little while, I realized I wasn't even on negative Y51, which is the best level to get diamonds now. So I mined all the way down until luckily I finally hit some diamonds, baby. And it wasn't just one diamond, it was actually 4. So I got plenty of diamonds to spare now. But while surfacing, I did realize that it's already nighttime on day 99, which means What does it mean, Paul? What does it mean? Which means after a good night rest, it's officially day 100, and it's time to craft up that diamond sword and officially have full diamond gear. And then after crafting up my brand new diamond sword, a creeper wanted to pop in my window and ask for some sugar. And I was like, nah, man, I would give you the sword though. And then, you know, I gave him the pokey poke. And then afterwards, I went and made a sandwich. I thought I closed Minecraft. I was going to do the whole like B-roll sequence like I normally do at the end of my 100 days. But I kind of just, I sat in my room. But at least we got a pretty sunset, right? Either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This was a very painful and very long 100 days. And if you guys did enjoy it, please hit that like button to let me know that you did. Hit subscribe, join the PaulGG army. Go check out my amazing hardcore series because we're killing it over there. And for now, I will see you guys in the next one.